Samantha loses her powers due to a bug that spreads whenever she's kissed, and a visit from Maurice leaves him earthbound, where he proceeds to make a royal pay of himself. This time, we'll be discussing Bewitched episode number 237, A Plague on Maurice and Samantha. Welcome to Twitch Talk!
Twitch Talk, brought to you by The Bewitched Continuum by Adam Michael James, the ultimate linear guide to the classic TV series, now in color. Gentlemen, people love classic TV, and what's more classic than Bewitched? But in the 60s, audiences didn't demand the same level of continuity that we expect today. So how to make sense of 8 seasons of Bewitched? The Bewitched Continuum, the only book to compare and contrast all 254 episodes, along with witch illnesses, top 10s, and more. It's the ultimate linear guide. And the slogan, The Bewitched Continuum. Come feel the magic. Now in color.
Well, this time on Twitch Talk, we're going to be discussing Bewitched episode number 237, A Plague on Maurice and Samantha. This episode was written by Ed Juris. It was directed by Richard Michaels, produced by William Asher, and the executive producer was Harry Ackerman. The main cast includes Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha, Dick Sargent as Darren, Agnes Moorehead as Endora, and David White as Larry Tate. The additional cast includes Morris Evans as Maurice, Bernard Fox as Dr. Bombay, Bernie Coppell as the Apothecary, J. Edward McKinley as Mr. Benson, Susan Hathaway as Betty, and Herbie Winters in an uncredited role as York. And now David has some historical facts about this episode, so David, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. A Plague on Maurice and Samantha completed production on August 12, 1971. The episode was originally broadcast on November 10, 1971. It is the 9th episode of the 8th season and the 237th episode of the series overall. On the broadcast date of November 10, 1971, the number 1 song on the Billboard chart was Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves by Cher, and the number 1 movie was Cry Uncle, about a slobbish private detective hired by a millionaire to investigate a murder based on the book Lie a Little, Die a Little. It starred Alan Garfield and Pamela Gruen, and this is her only credit on IMDb. The movie opened in August of 1971 and hit number 1 in its 12th week of release. It spent only 1 week in that position, earning a total of $1,076,148 at the box office. Has anyone even heard of that movie?
Nope.
Okay. So Mike, I'm sure has some continuity issues to go over. So Mike.
Oh, you know I do, Mark. Thank you so much. First off, I want to point out some of the good stuff about this episode. It starts with Samantha having a disease already in progress, which is a new one. Usually we watch her get the initial symptoms of it, so that was pretty cool. And Dora is actually willing to live with the disgrace of Samantha not having powers, which is kind of just one example of sort of the softer side of Endora in this episode, if not the softer side of Sears. Agnes Moorehead has some great unspoken moments, like when she taps Darren to make sure he hasn't been turned into a leaping lizard, and when she wipes off Maurice's cooties. My favorite part of the episode is when Endora just falls apart. It's a real tour de force for Agnes Moorehead because I just can't watch this. I have some other questions. So, why was Samantha trying her powers at the top of the episode when they were already gone? It was confirmed they were gone, so she was just checking. She said that the hexometer had checked her over and found out that she had this disease, but a hexometer was designed to detect the presence of witchcraft in Samantha's magic potion. I believe that's title 212. She also says, maybe I can adjust. What have you been doing for the last 7 years, Samantha? That's your shtick, adjusting to not using your powers. And finally, Dr. Bombay says that no one must have any direct contact with Samantha or kiss her. So why does Tabitha not have perimeridiectomitis? And how did Samantha get it in the first place? From Esmeralda, who had to call Dr. Bombay? These are the questions we'll never get answers to. But that's all I've got for now. More later.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. All right. So now we're going to go on and hear the panel's thoughts on this episode. But first, let's go through and introduce everybody. We have June. Yay! And Kate is with us. We haven't seen Kate in a while. We have a newbie with us. This is Steve. So Steve. And as always, Anna is here. Yay! And we have another newbie today, Jenny Norton. So, as usual, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about the episode. Give us your thoughts. Mention any bloopers or anything like that might come to mind. And then give us your rating of the episode, and we go from 1 to 4 stars. 4 stars being the best, 1 star being the worst. And then we'll go back at the end and we'll average it all out and come up with the overall rating for A Plague on Maurice and Samantha. So let's start with Julie.
I actually really liked this episode. I thought it was very cute and I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very interesting how well Maurice handled not having his powers. And him deciding to go into Darren's office and actually see what he did. I thought, well, that's pretty commendable. I also thought it was very brave of Maurice to give Endora a sword and say how much she loved cutting remarks. That was very brave of him. Also, it's like, I know that Darren has been through a lot with her parents, but why does he keep being such a jerk when he knows the powers they have? And one of these days they're just gonna actually turning him into a leaping lizard. He was really fortunate this time. So that was one thing I really thought. I thought it was cute when Maurice was in the office and flirting with the secretary. It's like, ooh, yes. I also thought it was really interesting that, Darren is this ad executive and he didn't even try the chili. I was like, shouldn't that be like the number one thing that you're supposed to do when you're trying to sell a product, is you're actually trying, you should try the product first and then you can kind of come up with the slogan. But I did enjoy Maurice's slogan of it. I thought it was really good. And, I actually wanted to buy some of that chili after, listening to the slogan. So one thing I would like to point out is Bernie Kopel's character. It's like, why was that even... why was that even in there? Seriously. The apothecary. It's like, it seems like he might have called the office and said, I'd really like to be in one of the next episode. And it's like, sure, we'll put you in as the apothecary. Anyway, I thought it was very cute and I enjoyed it. And I probably could think of a lot of other things to say about it, but I probably give this episode about 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was cute.
Okay. Let's move on to Kate.
I I have to contradict June. This is not one of my favorite episodes. I'm not a big rewatcher of season 8, I have to be honest. I think by then the storylines are starting to feel a little bit stale to me. Like, we've seen Samantha lose her powers a ton of times. We have seen Endora lose her powers. So I guess it is a little bit new that we're getting to see Maurice lose his powers, and he is very well tempered about it. You know, he's kind of excited to try something new, so that was fun aspect to it. I always love to see Dr. Bombay. I think that's fun, but I think in talking about like why is the apothecary there, I was like, well, just to like add something new. Like, there's not a whole lot of plot to this episode that we haven't seen before, so I think for me it just feels a little bit like we're reworking something that we have already seen across the seasons. And I do agree that there are really good moments for Agnes Moorehead. I think she's delightful in this. I love the scene with her and Maurice at the end when they're like being a little flirty, a little sexy time for them. I think that's always a lot of fun to see. But yeah, other than that, for me, this episode kind of falls a little bit flat. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 2 out of 4 stars for me.
All right, let's go on to Steve.
Hi, everybody. I think I'm the new kid here on the block on Morning Glory Circle, so thanks for inviting me to the party. This is not my favorite episode. It has strengths and weaknesses, as they all do. I think the strongest element of the whole thing is Morris Evans. I think his performance really carries the episode. Some of the other principals maybe seem to be lacking a little energy by now in season 8, but I think he was really committed to the character and full of energy, and he really carried it, I think. Yes, we've seen everybody lose their powers before except Maurice, so that was fun. And I appreciated the fact that we got to see that little spark between Endora and Maurice that we have not frequently seen. So that was fun. I was not a big fan of the apothecary scene. It almost felt like the described scene between Esmeralda and Dr. Bombay at the top of the show was supposed to actually be a scene, and for some reason it wasn't, and then the apothecary was sort of added in as filler, it felt like. The skirt chasing is it's an old vaudevillian joke, I guess, on one level. It does not age well into the current century. And I guess if we were talking to the creators in 1971, they might say, oh, we're being hip, we're being new, we're being modern, we're not being sexually repressed like the mores of the 50s. But if you were to ask them, what about consent? What about harassment? They would say, excuse me, what? So that fell flat for me. I don't think it ages terribly well. Not a lot of big belly laughs in this, but my 3 favorite laugh moments were, one of them was scripted and 2 of them were acted. My favorite scripted joke was Maurice going into his soliloquy, and Samantha says he's a Danish prince, and then of course Endora says he's a Danish ham. That's a great joke. That is a strong written joke. It's a good joke right on the page. My favorite 2 acted moments, poor Yorick wasn't saying a word. Was that Herbie Winters? Is that right? Didn't say a word, but the expression on his face made me laugh out loud. Talk about taking a brief moment and getting a lot of mileage out of it. He did a great job with that. And then in the final scene, when Endora says, well, now I've got the bug, there's a guffaw that erupts out of Dick Sargent at that moment. That sounded so sincere, unbridled, and authentic that I said, that's a lot of years of frustration finally coming to the surface. Gosh, I would give this episode 3 stars.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am sure that somewhere, perhaps in one of those, in the Bewitched history books or guide, will give specifics on how many episodes are about losing the powers. We've seen it. I am always happy to see Dr. Bombay. I would have liked to have seen his assistant that's doing their fellowship. I would have preferred that to the apothecary. I think that I agree with you guys. Maybe they were trying to be a little edgy. I think a lot of them, you can see in Liz, I think a lot of people were just kind of bored by then and wanted to get it over with. So they just wanted to try something new and different. I love Maurice. I love him in all the episodes. I love him in this one. I think it's absolutely charming that he goes with the punches. He's just interested. He's like, okay, I lost my powers. We'll check this out. It's just adorable that he's all excited about shaving and that he just goes all in and he's enthusiastic about trying new food and trying new things. And I don't know. Maybe since one of the big Bewitched themes is acceptance, I think Maurice may have been modeling that. Here he's he's almost more of a witch chauvinist than Endora, possibly, but he just goes right along with it. So that's just the best part. And then Maurice and Endora are so sweet together. Even today, it's people like cut off any depictions of flirting most of the time for anybody over 35 or 40. So it's just so great to see older people flirting and having a little intrigue and excitement. So those parts are great, and because of that, I am going to give it a 2.
Okay. How about you, Jane?
All right. So, like probably most people, season 8 is my least favorite season. You can tell that Elizabeth Montgomery is just done with it. She's bored. It's not the perky Samantha that we're used to. There's been a lot of remakes. A lot of rehashes of old plots, like others have mentioned, like losing the powers again. But I think this is actually one of the better episodes of season 8 because it's not a remake and because it has the newer aspect of Maurice losing his powers this time. It did kind of break at the beginning of the episode one of the cardinal rules of script writing, which was don't tell, show. So with Samantha describing what Dr. Bombay and Esmeralda were doing versus you seeing like Dr. Bombay and Esmeralda interacted, which I think would have been a funnier scene than what the apothecary was, as other people have mentioned. And I think that this could have actually been a 2-parter just to stretch that out, and so there would be a more original episode in season 8, which was again like a lot of remakes. Some parts of the episode I did really like is the Agnes Mooreheads. I can't bear to watch this, and I also really like Maurice threatening Darren with a sword, even though he didn't have his powers anymore. That was really funny. The part with the client, I do like Maurice's interactions with the client because that's new. We haven't really seen Maurice pitching something to McMahon and Tate. Something that Larry did that I thought was out of character is that he didn't throw Darren under the bus when the client was talking about liking Maurice and his ideas. Larry tells the client that Maurice can't even remember his own son-in-law's name, whereas usually Larry would just like throw Darren under the bus like that. He does later, but not at that point. I thought, well, that's a little bit different. Overall, I would give this a 2.5 out of 4. It's better than what we've seen in a lot of season 8 episodes, but it still is a little bit of a rehash. But there still are some cute moments that I think redeem it and make it a little bit better than average.
Okay. David.
All right, so I actually really like this episode, even compared with the rest of the series. I think it's, even though we've had power loss episodes before, I think the execution of this one is great. I I like that it starts with Samantha already having lost her powers, and I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but when Samantha's like, "Flowers, won't you please rise?" and Dora starts talking before she actually pops in for like just a beat, which I thought was really cool. And I loved Agnes Moorehead's interactions with Elizabeth, like caressing her ponytails, which I don't like the ponytails on Liz, but that was a cute moment. I love that I love when Maurice is giving his soliloquies and Samantha's all, I'm sorry, and he keeps on going and blustering all over, and she's like, I said I was sorry. And then, of course, I love Dr. Bombay, and I like his spacesuit, and I do like his line about that he has a student that's on a fellowship, but it's not a fellow. Love that, and I agree. It would have been funnier to see that scene than with the apothecary, which, oddly enough, this is only the third time the apothecary has shown up on the series, and he hasn't been seen since season 6. So maybe they were like, well, we can plop him in here, and then he has one more appearance at the very end. But I love Bernie Coppell, and even though it's a shuderific role that he's playing, he does it well. This episode was the last one that Maurice Evans filmed, but they aired it before Adam Warlocker Washout. So that's why he asked how Adam's powers are doing, because he's already filmed that episode. And I think anytime Maurice Evans is on the set, Liz is just on fire. She loved him so much, and I love when Maurice walks in and says how great he thought shaving with a razor was, and both Agnes and Liz are like, oh, the thought of Daddy having to use a razor. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it 4 stars.
Okay. Mike, what else do you have to add?
Well, David, I'm actually glad that you mentioned about the episodes being filmed out of order, because that makes the whole Adam's powers being addressed makes sense from a sheer continuity standpoint based on, the way it was aired. I was like, wait, what? I mean, Tabitha got like all this, is she or isn't she a witch? And then her powers are tested and all this stuff about her witchcraft. And Adam gets how's Adam's witchcraft? Fine. That's it. So at least now we know that's a follow-up. So that makes more sense. Interesting question. When has Tabitha flown yet? And Samantha's like, well, no. Which makes me wonder, what then did Tabitha do when she popped into the Steamboat Bill show in the previous episode? Is that flying, or is that just popping? Is there a difference? Who knows? I find it interesting that unlike Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds, Endora spends the night at the Stevens without incident. Darren doesn't say anything about her, having been there. Either that's a continuity flaw, or Darren has evolved, and maybe his relationship with Endora a little bit too. Lots of talk here about the apothecary. What I want to know is why the apothecary is examining Samantha. Bombay's right, and it's the second time this year. This would be like if you went to your pharmacist for a second opinion, because that's what the apothecary is. Not a doctor. Or is he a doctor? We don't know that either. Interesting that Darren introduces Maurice to Larry by saying, you know my father-in-law. Well, actually, no, he doesn't, because they've never been formally introduced. They've kind of sort of peripherally crossed paths over 8 years, but that was their first actual meeting. And I find it also interesting that Darren says, well, if you come up with an idea for the chili or anything, just let us know. And I have a hard time believing that Larry would be okay with that, because Maurice is just a visitor and Darren is the account executive. So, that's kind of weird that Larry didn't say anything. And then Finally, how exactly does Maurice taste the chili? This is 1971. It's not like they have a microwave in the break room. Do they have a stove set up in the break room where they can heat food up that way? And Maurice certainly can't zap it warm. So I think about these things so you don't have to. Thanks, Mark.
What's your rating?
Oh!
I'm like, wait, is he done?
That's probably the reason why you didn't remember your rating.
I don't know.
Too much Richard George.
You know, Mark, you've been very good to me. And I just want to thank you both. Too much Richard George. Okay. I actually like this episode. Again, it's not my absolute favorite, but I think it is one of the more original installments of season 8, so I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Okay. So it's my turn. So I do like this episode. It is one of the better, in my opinion, it's one of the better season 8 episodes. I'm not as against season 8 as everybody else is. There definitely were a lot of remakes, and the final episode was just almost a word for word remake of Speak the Truth from season 2. Again, I think this is one of the better episodes from season 8. It's not really a remake, although as everybody has been saying, it's like how many times, over the 8 seasons did Samantha lose her powers. But I think that this episode may have been inspired by the Dodo Bird episode where Endora loses her powers, because it seems to be kind of the total opposite. Where Endora, when she lost her powers, she was just pathetic. I mean, she was weak and pathetic and whiny. But Maurice is like the total opposite. He's enthusiastic, and he's looking at it as an opportunity to learn how the other half lives. And so I just think it was kind of like the total opposite of that. But I was also going to mention the fact that this episode was filmed after Adam Washout Warlock. Because Maurice does ask Samantha, how is Adam progressing with his powers? Which I think that slips by a lot of people. I think a lot of people probably don't even notice that. But that episode was filmed just prior to this, which also, goes ahead and does verify that Adam is indeed a warlock, because apparently people don't watch that entire, Adam Washout Warlock. They don't apparently watch that entire episode because a lot of people don't think that Adam had powers. So they're not really paying attention. So this kind of solidifies that. I really can't think of anything much else other than what everybody else has said. I do enjoy the episode. Again, I think it's one of the more original episodes for this season. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. All right, so with that, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to average out the ratings for A Plague on Maurice and Samantha, and we will be back in just a moment.
So I think the fashion of this episode is about Samantha and Endora coming together and Samantha trying to find her place. We start with Samantha wearing one of the most unfortunate looks of the entire series. Blue and blue and blue. Just is real hard to pull off. It doesn't work there. The pigtails are just unfortunate. I'm not being ageist. Sam is gorgeous. They just don't work. She could have been wearing boots, which could have redeemed it, but she's wearing house shoes. And Dora has the blue turquoise sort of thing. So she's got the same theme as Sam, but fabulous. I love the ropes of fake pearls and beads she has. They're different colors, which you don't always see. Well, the next thing is Maurice, who is unfailingly dapper. I'm not an expert on men's fashion, but somebody that could basically do a dissertation on how and why he always manages to look great. We got a glimpse of Betty, who is moving along just fine with the 70s. She's got a cool, brassy, shiny sort of thing, which the dress itself is like fashion and jewelry. It doesn't need anything else. So the next costume change has Samantha and Endora both in horizontal patterns. Endora has a tiger stripe, which is about as Endora as you can get. And Sam, of course, is more subdued and they're sort of like blues and peaches print. But she's Sam again. It's cute. It fits. It suits her. It's got the kind of pastel-y housewife sort of thing. But she's Sam. She's got style. So what it represents is that she's coming back to herself because her mother is there. And it's one of the engaging things about their relationships that as exasperated and embarrassed as Endora gets about Samantha losing her powers, she's gonna stick with her and she's gonna help her figure it out, and it's gonna work out.
Y'all bored at home? You got nothing to do? The Bewitched history book will come to your rescue. With over 700 pages of info and fun, you won't want to put it down until the day is done, huh? If you're a true Bewitched fan, then all we can say is get online and order yours today.
Twitch Talk has been brought to you by The Bewitched History Book by David L. Pierce, covering all 254 episodes of Bewitched and tying in the real-life events of the time.
All right, well, welcome back to Twitch Talk. And now we're going to give our final rating on episode number 237, A Plague on Maurice and Samantha. And just to review, June, 3.5 stars. Kate, 2 stars. Steve, 3 stars. Anna, 2 stars. Jenny, 2.5 stars. David, 4 stars. Mike, 3 stars. And I gave it 3.5 stars. So when we averaged out the ratings for episode number 237, A Plague on Maurice and Samantha, we come up with 2.9375. So we're going to round this up to 3 stars. Yay! Actor Endora states that Darren needs help to succeed in business. He thinks that a visit from reclusive client Madame Marushka is actually his mother-in-law in disguise and proceeds to purposely sabotage the account. Next time on Twitch Talk, we'll be discussing Bewitched episode number 104, How to Fail in Business with All Kinds of Help. Yay! All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. I want to thank my co-hosts, David and Mike. And As always, June and Anna and Kate and Steve and Jenny, it was great to have you with us, and we hope you'll come back and join us again here on Twitch Talk. So until next time, best Twitches, everyone! Yay!
Yay!